Hello again. I'm going to continue with my little series on reminiscing on old venues from the past, and this time I'm going to have a little talk about Bristol City Docks, which we used to fish on a regular basis in the evenings back in the 80s and 90s. And in the summer months, we used to go to a place called Coalpit Wharf, which is in the winter they used to fish in the town centre because the fish used to move up into the warmer areas of the dock, where it was fishing off a high wall uh, in the city centre. But in the summer months, we used to go down to Coalpit Wharf, which was like a promenade along by the water. It's a bit like going to the seaside, really. I used to think it was, nice, great atmosphere. Windsurfers, capsizing in your peg, and swimmers and ferries and all sorts. Yes, it was quite different, really. Quite different to anything anywhere else you've fished, really, with match fishing. And they used to have matches every Monday and Thursday down there. And I don't go much now because it took me, the last time I went down there, it's only 32 miles from my house, and it must have taken 2 hours to get there with the traffic, so it's messed it up a little bit. But yeah, I used to go down there quite regularly in the old days, and the fishing's tremendous, really. I think Dave Haynes from Bristol started the matches off. They used to be called starlight matches because half half the time you're fishing in the dark, really, and the later matches up towards August and September. Around the middle of the summer, you've only got about half an hour of light, half an hour of darkness, so you're fishing mostly in the light. They were called starlight matches. We used to get these little tiny starlights that you cracked open, attach them to the top of your float so you could see them in the dark. They were great. They actually had a league down there. They used to have 20 anglers, 25 anglers fishing the league, and basically ever such tight pegging, but it didn't seem to matter. I think with these vast, great big expanses of water, you can get away with tight pegging more than the canals and rivers and that. And yeah, they used to cram us in, but the fishing was still quite good. We used to, some of the anglers that used to get down there, Tony Rickson was probably the man to beat at the time. Vic Bush also, probably the two best anglers in Bristol at the time, those two. Dave Wilmot, Brian Shanks, Pete Civil and his brother Merv Civil. Mark Harper used to come along now and again. Dave Clutterbuck, Alan Oram. And that's just a few of the names that I could remember, the regulars that used to go down there. Now let me think what we've... Yeah, so it's a bit like fishing the Gloucester Canal in some ways. It's really probably 5 sections of pole deep out there at 11 metres. And what's that? Up to 18 foot of water, I expect. And I used to find that you could fish 2 lines on there, one with ground bait on the long pole, fishing these type of floats. This is a grab at a gram and a half. People used anything up to 4 grams on there, but I used to find gram and a half, 2 grams, if it was still, was probably ample. I just broke that float actually. Just got it out of the show, and a blooming tip broke off of it. So that an old Drennan G tip, that sort of shape of float, really, for fishing on the long pole, or even this type of thing, a 2 grammer. Don't really know what type of float it is. Don't really matter. That was the sort of shape. And on the inside line, used to tend to use a more streamline float, because that was more fishing on the drop for dace on the maggot, on the 6 metre maggot line, where you probably still got 12, 13 foot of water. You used to use like a gram float or 3/4 gram float, I think that is, with strung number 6s on the bottom half to catch these fast biting dace. They wouldn't stay there. The water's often quite clear. You'd rest your long pole line, come in on the loose feed and just catch a few of these dace if you could, or even roach would come in there. But the mainstay method was fishing that long pole with ground bait. No one really bought it in then so much. It was more a ball of chuck, just fishing just regular balls out there. Fishing was, well, the quality of fish you used to get down there in those dots was brilliant. There were these great big quality roach, skimmers, eels. Unfortunately, you didn't want to hook an eel in the middle of the night. That was if you hooked an eel in the dark, that was caused a few problems with unhooking the blooming tangles. But yeah, mainly roach and skimmer fishing. Let's have a look. Hold on a minute. Here we go. Just trying to think. Yeah, I used to use far too lighter elastic in those days on that. I used to use a number 5, which is nowhere near. I miss bites, and I just don't think it was man enough to pick the heavier rigs up. Double 5. I've been recently, when I've been going down there, I sort of treat myself to a couple of matches down there every year in the middle of summer, and double 5 seems spot on. You hook more bites, because obviously with the 5 elastic, it comes out before the rig starts. You're not even getting the rig moving with that, because the elastic's coming out in that time when you should be pulling through to the hook. So double 5 lately has been good for me. You don't really bump any more fish on that. In fact, I reckon you bump less fish. You set the hook better with it. Yeah, that's Colin Golding. That's right. He used to fish a few of the matches down there. Colin Golding is actually fished for England at one time, a Bristol chap, and he put me onto the dace fishing on the inside, actually, because no one else was doing that much. He had that line to himself. He told me about this dace fishing, and he always used to tell me it was better to string the shot out, even in the deep water sometimes. Still big shot, but big shot strung out, like number 1s and BBs even strung down to the. The only trouble is that if you get a tangle, it's obviously a lot worse, a lot harder to get it out. But I think he's right. It is better to string it out sometimes. You still got the weight to get the bait down there and quickly and control it. But it's better. I think it's better for hooking the bites, and they don't feel that bolt so much, that bolt shot, and also you don't pull out so many because the bolt's not pulling against the hook so much. It's more of an even spread. The even spread of shot, the whole lot stays straighter. And old Colin, yeah, he told me that. I've stuck over the years. I've done that since. Try and do that nearly all the time, unless I absolutely have to bulk it. So I try to string it a little bit on the last bit. Yeah, when it got dark, that's right. I used to have to catch all my fish in the light usually, because when it got dark I was blooming hopeless. But the Bristol lads had everything sorted. They had it totally sorted. They had a little 12-volt car battery they used to drag along, and a proper light on the subject. And I had a little handheld torch that used to just fade away. Oh, I don't know, I just couldn't be bothered. But I think also, I did notice I just couldn't get the bites in the night that the others got. And I got a feeling that the fish are attracted to that light. I really do think that. I used to look along, see all these great big beams across the water, and my little tiny, pathetic beam from my little torch. And yeah, the night time I never used to catch much at all. Remember, Pete Civil used to catch fish on the hemp in the middle of the night. And I always thought that was flipping pitch black bait, fish off the bottom. Old Pete used to do really well on that at times, and he always does. He's done well over the years down there. To be honest with you, old Pete, he's got the place pretty well sussed. And he still goes down there. I still see him every year down there when I go down there. Yeah, you get a dozen or so anglers still fishing on the docks down there, and the fishing's as good as ever. The last few matches I fished down there, it's been brilliant. I think one of them, it was a £21. I had something. There was a 17, 15. Everyone had double figures of skimmers. It was really good. And loads of roach as well, and dace. I mean, great big dace. It's a brilliant venue, the docks, brilliant. Absolutely love the place, and it's so different to everywhere else. It's like a unique venue. It was brilliant. Right, I think that's enough on the docks. Let me just double check that I've said everything about it. Yeah, that'll do on that. So moving eastwards, a little bit further upstream or up motorway. The other place I said I was going to have a little chat about was Bitterwell Lake, and in North Bristol, between Bath and Bristol. You take the Bath junction of the M4, go for about 5 miles down top side of Bristol, and it's a place called Coalpit Heath. It's a little park, little square park lake. You can get about 25 people around there at a push. It's not very big. It's a long way to the middle, but as I said, it's square or even roundish type lake. And what a place that was for fishing in the day, back in the day. It's still good now, I think. But when I used to fish it regularly, they used to have regular Wednesday matches. Every Wednesday they used to have a match there. And always remember there was a little tuck shop. Every sort of dinner time, a little bell would go, and middle of the afternoon you go and get your tuck. Lovely atmosphere. I think they even do these continental style matches there now, where you get 3 hours in the morning. They'll cook up a bit of food for your lunchtime, and you have another 3 hours in the afternoon. Lovely atmosphere. It's really nice, friendly atmosphere, friendly place to fish. And right, that is, yeah. Now, that is the place where I suppose Des would mind me saying, I reckon that's one of the places he actually cut his teeth, if you like, when it comes to catching roach, incredibly shy roach, because I've never fished a place before in my life where they've been so hard to hook. Roach, they are, and they're not all little. You can put it down to little ones. I don't think it is all little ones. Quite often it's decent ones, and they were unbelievable. I thought longleat was bad enough. That takes the biscuit bitterwell for difficult to catch fish. Roach, they're so cute, so. I don't know why, but they just are. They're bloody shy as hell. I remember Vic Bush telling me once he watched an angler there fishing he sat behind him for 20 minutes, had a bite every chuck, more than a bite every chuck, and he never hooked a single one. Not one bite. He missed a lot. I can see why. It was really difficult. They're awkward fish. That was a place where I sort of learned a bit about me catching those roach on the waggler. There's lightning down and fishing I used to find fishing a pinky was helpful. Fishing the lake's about 3 or 4 foot deep. I used to set up a couple of wagglers, a bit like on my Broadlands video that I did, except it was because it was shallow. I think I had number 11 shots strung down on the deep rig, and on the shallow one I'd have just a couple, 3 or 4 number 12 shot on the bottom part of the rig, and a tiny little waggler. And yeah, pinky was I sussed out that little tiny maggots or pinkies dotted the float. They caught so many fish on it, even those bigger roach. Put a big maggot on, you'd miss them. Put a pinky on, you'd hook them. Whatever was feeding there, might be bigger roach or it might be smaller roach. And yeah, pinkies I found an important bait, and just varying between fishing shallow and fishing deep, and coming on a pole line now and again, because in those days, yeah, loose fed pole line at about as far as I could loose feed underarm, about 10 meters I suppose, and catching fish at various depths on that. Yeah, in those days I don't think they allowed ground bait. I think it was just loose feed. I think Clive and Murray, just the people that ran it, I think they just allowed loose feeding at the time. You just allow maggots, casters, worms, not even bread. I don't think. I think it, and therefore the skimmers had to come to loose feed or worm and caster approach, and you'd have your quota of skimmers just fishing for your roach. They'd turn up now and again, and you'd catch a few of these skimmers, and have a mixed bag of skimmers and roach in the net at the end of the day. Chris Davis, probably one of the better anglers on the skimmers down there at the time, used to win loads. I think Chris used to concentrate on the skimmers, actually catching them on casters and worms, or just casters, I don't know, but certainly worms were important at the time for them. And Des used to catch loads all the. He actually put me onto catching these roach down the edges, because I noticed he used, in the last hour or so, last part of the match, he'd catch these, not just carp, because there were carp in there, and they would come into the edges, but amongst the carp, great big roach down the edge. And yeah, sort of opened my eyes really at the fact that, oh, you can catch roach down the edge. I didn't know that. I didn't realise that. And he used to catch a lot like that, and he used to catch on the pole. He was brilliant at catching them shallow, long on the pole, with casters. Yeah, Bitterwell Lake. That was a sort of a learning curve for fishing, and another brilliant venue. Where are we going to go to now? Lastly, yeah, Bath Town, Bristol Avon, Newbridge and Bath, more so Bath, because that's where I used to run the matches on a Wednesday quite regularly. In the centre of Bath, off of this high wall, which you can't even. I was told to stretch the other day. Steve Saunders on the Facebook, he reckons that it's all railined up now, and you can't even fish it now, for health and safety reasons, obviously. But we used to drive down to the Windsor Castle pub. Under the Windsor Castle pub there's an arch, I remember it, and park right down by the riverside there. And health and safety would just have a meltdown now if they you just wouldn't be allowed to do it. Yeah, used to park down there, drawing the Windsor Castle pub. Went back to the Windsor Castle pub for results, and I remember the best attendance of a match down there. We had about 60. Mark Harper had to take it over doing the running of it, because I was late for some reason. I was just overslept. He ran this match. There's about 60 odd anglers down there. Bloody unbelievable for a Wednesday match. But the fishing was tremendous. It was Newbridge was the same at the time, and Vic Bush was running the Wednesday league at Newbridge on the Bristol Avon. Great attendances. and there was loads of these bomber chub in the river at the time. They're like 12-ounce fish to £1.5, loads of them. They're in a lot of pegs, and they haven't really come through in recent years. But the roach fishing is still good now. But the roach fishing and the chub fishing was good then, and yeah, Bath Town was another really good venue. Personally, I used to approach it with a pole approach, and if the river was in decent condition, fish the pole at about 11 metres, and alternate that with a waggler. I used to start on a waggler, sliding waggler, because just made up casting that little bit easier. Just sliding it a little bit, maybe a couple of foot, with a string of shots. There's a strung slider, string of number 6s on the bottom half of the rig in about 13 foot of water. Loose feeding maggot on that. Used to, if you're lucky enough to draw the right pegs, it used to be good fishing. Dace, nice mixture of chub, dace and roach, and yeah, good days, good fishing down there on that bit of river at Bath. Not much more to say about it, really. I don't think. Yeah, that's it. There's those 3 venues, and good old days. Right, what are we on? 20. Oh my word, 22 minutes is nearly dinner time. Anyway, got to do one. I'll do 1 or 2 more on these reminiscing ones, and I reckon that's going to be it then. I can't be bothered to do any more, really. But I hope that was interesting for some of the people that remember those save matches. All right, I'll see you later. Ta-da.